Make sure you're marketing and aligning with individuals that share the same beliefs and are looking for the same things that you have. And if you need help, ask people.
Kurt and I have run into those traps. And ultimately, you need to charge enough for the value you are providing in order to run, a profitable business that can sustain itself.
And we screwed up marketing a ton because we were like, hey, let's go with Amazon. Let's get the masses. And it didn't do anything. We tried all these other little things to try to make this big hit, and it really didn't happen.
Hello, and welcome to the Liberty Spenders podcast. We are Kurt and Kristen Ludhart, your hosts and co-founders of the Prosper Group, an agency that's raised over $500 million and elected over 100 members of Congress, 15 governors, 15 U.S. senators, and 1 president. And now, in addition to helping political candidates get elected, we're helping your business get elected by answering this question. What if you could exponentially grow your business by tapping into a unique and engaged audience that we call Liberty Spenders? Now, Liberty Spenders are politically conservative or faith-based consumers, and they're looking to buy from businesses and brands that align with their values. And if you want to learn more, you can get our new best-selling book for free at libertyspenders.com/free.
Our guest today is Bryan Fetzer, who is the co-founder of Iron Faith Nutrition and Psi Optimal Sports. We're excited to have Bryan join us today. He's got an impressive track record as a collegiate head coach and director, achieving 9 top 10 finishes over 15 years, producing 23 national champions, and mentoring 179 All-Americans. So we're definitely going to get into that. But on top of doing that, Bryan is an accomplished entrepreneur and leader with 28 years of expertise spanning administration, leadership management, nutrition, broadcasting, coaching, and consulting on high-performance initiatives in sports, education, and business. So we'll also find out how he has the time. But currently, Bryan is the founder and owner of 2 companies specializing in mental optimization, mental training, and nutrition. We're going to really get into Iron Faith Nutrition today. And his entrepreneurial ventures are complemented because he's clearly got the time that no one else does to do television, podcasting, and media streaming, and still consulting on other sports-related initiatives. So, Bryan, I'm glad you joined us today, and that was going to be my first thing. I don't know how you find time for it all.
Well, I can't say enough how much I appreciate having me on, and I love what I do. I mean, what can I say? God gave you 24 hours in a day, might as well take use of all 24.
Yeah.
Like they say, when you love what you do, you never work a day in your life.
Yeah. It's an interesting collection of sports, nutrition, leadership. How did all of this happen? How did you start as little Bryan and then become the entrepreneur and sports expert and consultant that you are today?
Well, it started, I wanted to coach all my life. That's all I really wanted to do. And spent 23 years being afforded that opportunity to coach at the highest level, Virginia, Harvard, Cal Berkeley, Mississippi State. It kind of goes on and on with the different places I was able to do that with. And that really kind of set things up. My father was a high school coach for, 40 plus years. And my mother was a business professional. So having an opportunity to see those 2 varying sets of skills and those 2 varying kind of career paths was kind of how things got rolling. And, you start to learn towards the end of my coaching career, when I was the director at the University of Virginia for track and field and cross country, I realized that I really like the administrative side, and I've always been thrilled with building. I've been fortunate to be at different programs as head coach and so forth, and build those programs from either scratch, which happened at Ranger Junior College and Gardner Webb, or kind of building them up from, I guess, the ashes as things were at Virginia and at Cal. And when we got there, things weren't great. So I enjoy that building part. So that's kind of what it kind of led me into the entrepreneurial side of things. And it's kind of gone from there. I want to help people. That's probably the bottom line. That's where the consulting and some other parts go is, You want to make sure that you make things better than what they were when you took over, or you just want to help people out. That's really kind of where it is.
Well, and people come from coaching from all different backgrounds or emphasis. And so, you've got the people that are so focused on, I don't know, I'd almost say like optimization of the human body, and it all depends on what level you're coaching at. But I just have such a soft spot. I think a lot of people do if they've ever been in sports, either in high school, when they were a kid, even going into college. That was true of me. And my dad was my coach. So that's a whole interesting other dynamic. But just the time he put into that coaching, at a middle school and high school level was not paid nearly enough, right? I mean, the pay is never, it's never lined up with the time and the energy it takes.
For the hours.
Right. But, him just pouring into people and wanting to see that transformation and how that impacted their lives and how they, how they showed up for school and everything else. So anyway, that track record and what you've been able to accomplish, there's obviously skill. There's skill involved in understanding your craft and the sport, whatever you're coaching. But anybody who's been in, school sports knows there's so much more that goes into it with mindset and not focusing on the things that you can't control. And so I would imagine all of those things would have supported you then shifting into business, because so much of our success in business is right up in here in our heads and how we see the world. And so you would have had amazing training, right? Building those resilience muscles as a coach.
Without question. I mean, as a director at the collegiate level, I mean, things are so much different. I mean, college sports are essentially pro sports. I mean, you're running a business. I mean, you're running a multi-million-dollar business, when it comes to salaries and scholarships and budgets and so forth. So you're really a CEO or a president as much as you are a coach, because you're delineating, you're delegating out, your responsibilities to certain aspects to your assistant coaches and your support staff, whether it's sports medicine or nutrition or sports psychology. And I mean, you're setting up travel for 80 kids to go someplace. I mean, so there are so many working pieces. So you learn how to run a business because you're actually running a business. You're figuring out, hey, how much money am I going to give person X? And that's a scholarship. Track and field doesn't have just fulls. They have, you can give all kind of different value numbers to it. But you're trying to figure out, hey, I got to hire a coach. This is my coaching salary pot. I can't hire somebody for $200,000 when I only have $100,000. So you got to learn how to balance budgets and so forth. So it really prepares you way more than what you would think. And every opportunity or every venture that I've been in outside of the direct coaching has been a direct result of coaching, meaning the nutrition piece. You learn about that as a coach because you want to get kids better. You learn about the psychology piece because you're trying to relate to an athlete better, or your coaches better, or the community better. Lectures on performance and so on and so forth. All those things come from what you learn as a coach, which, coaches would be a great hire. If you're a business owner and you're trying to, hire people in leadership positions, hire someone that has coaching experience, because they're learning, they've learned on the job how to deal with people, how to do all those kind of things.
I've never thought about that before, about hiring people with coaching backgrounds. But now that you say it, sounds like the most obvious thing in the world. To your point, because of all the elements that a coach does, which is beyond just calling the plays.
Right.
But there's business aspects, there's leadership aspects to it. There's a whole host of skills you got to have down if you're going to coach well.
Very true. And you learn, like I said, you learn them on the fly. I mean, there's not a book that says, it's not like you guys book that, talk to me about marketing and so forth, which was great to read, by the way. But, there's no book on coaching that says, this is how you have to handle this parental situation. You just got to figure it out. Hey, how are you going to handle a recruit that makes a commitment and then flips their decision to go with somebody else because they offered him a better situation? There's no book on that. You're just kind of learning on the fly. And you're sitting in a living room talking to mom and dad, trying to express why your school is the best fit for that individual. Fortunately, I got to learn and I got to fail a lot. I mean, sports is about failure. You fail and you figure out how do you recover from it? How do you make it better? So you're learning all those lessons as you go. And I guess the Lord gave me, 20 some years of experience learning how to fail the right way.
Yeah.
Well, and that recruiting, it's a sales job, right? That's a sales pitch.
Absolutely.
And you've got the stakeholders there, right? So it's not just the child that you're trying to recruit. You've got the parents, you've got all kinds of external noise. And so I'm curious about this because you mentioned about, when you shifted and started doing more of the administrative side that you found out that you enjoyed that. Can you pinpoint that back? Was there something where the light bulb went on and you had that realization of either I'm really good at this or were you finding that there was a gap that you could uniquely fill, or what was that shift for you when you recognized that?
I mean, really becoming a head coach or a director, because I was an assistant. I had a really non-normal coaching career, specifically in track and field. I started coaching football at a junior college level down in Texas. That's all I ever wanted to do was be a football coach. And God kind of made me pivot to coaching track, which I really wasn't a track person. Played football in college, loved football. Like I said, father coached football. And my first really 8 years of coaching was a head coach, starting a program in a junior college while I was coaching football, and then starting Gardner Webb, which was a D2 school at the time. And I did that. And then I went into a situation where I became an assistant coach. So I kind of got to see how you start businesses and fail businesses, how you could start, things and what you could do better. Fortunately, I was blessed beyond belief that we had incredible success, but that was because I could recruit. It wasn't because of my knowledge in sport. It was because I put great people in place and God gave me the gift of gab, I guess. And, I could, sell a program. We had great recruits. We did well. And then I left and became an assistant coach. And then I learned how to coach for the next, 6-7 years. And then when I got my second go around as a director or a head coach at Virginia, I kind of saw what I did as a failure as a coach to begin with, kind of got back in the trenches, learned the sport. Then I could redo it in a next kind of form. And I'd be the first one to admit I still screwed up a bunch. And, I wish I knew today what I did or know back then what I did today, because I think I'd have been a lot better of a coach. That would be more dealing with people.
So you learned a lot as a coach. You built these skills. How did that lead to your transition into entrepreneurship?
Well, my business partner in Iron Faith, Eric Figio, and I, back in 2017-ish, his family had a company called Daniel Chapter 1 that lasted for years, greatly successful company in the nutrition space. I'd taken their products forever. They were a sponsor of ours when I was at Gardner Webb. And, they did things right. They taught me, Jim Figio, who is his father, taught me tons about nutrition and about understanding how the body actually works as opposed to what's, presented most of the time out in the normal society. And really started telling me things that we're finding out or that are coming to light today. He told me those things 20 years ago. And his company, really, telling you the origin story of our company about Iron Faith, different agencies targeted him, saying he was saying the wrong things, wasn't saying it was allowed. I mean, I know that would never take place in the United States today. But they targeted him and they basically shut his business down. Something that had been, very successful. And it was sad because he was helping a lot of people out, giving tons of money away, helping people. I mean, I know he gave a car to somebody. I remember sitting there. He gave a car to somebody, but he didn't keep record of it because you're just supposed to give. I mean, it's very biblical. And, off of that company gets shut down. A warehouse person started kind of doing something similar. They weren't allowed to use certain names. He kind of tried to restart it. He wasn't a very good business person. He was great at that. Eric and I decided really to kind of take his legacy and kind of get some insight. We changed the product names. We changed the products, the formulas of the products, so they wouldn't be the same because we weren't allowed to. And we kind of restarted or started from anew and not really restarted because it's not anything of the same company, and started this company and launched it. And, with the whole part of trying to help people and educate people on what's best for them. And as a coach, I used to see, we would pump ibuprofen into somebody, which ibuprofen is known to cause havoc on the gut. It's known to cause other issues. And you're pumping, a kid, we're so much in the sick care system right now as opposed to the healthcare system, because it's not healthcare. It's just, hey, you got a symptom, let's treat that symptom. Let's not fix that problem. And so that was the goal, figure out things that we could do. And, kind of transform that. We came up with one product, curcumazyme. It's an inflammation support product that's certified by Informed Sport, which is the leading drug testing company for sport in the world. And so it's healthy. What you're taking is what you're getting. And professional athletes, college athletes, firefighters, policemen, anybody gets drug tested could take it and know that they're not going to test positive for a banned substance. And that's it all kind of came out. And that's our main product. And, we've learned a lot of lessons from it. And, we're just trying to make it better. We're trying to preserve a legacy of using nutrition and biochemistry to help with issues and to help kind of get to the root cause of issues. And from there, it's kind of continued to grow and learned a lot of lessons and learned a lot of things that we wish we would have had in place back when we first got it started.
Well, it's amazing to see that example, because as you're describing this, it sounds like you were really inspired by what they were able to achieve at this other company. And you were seeing the impact of it, and even just chatting a little bit before we started recording, you were describing, just how ahead of the times, some of these solutions were. So being able to witness that, and again, with your background and your sensitivity to, nutrition and the impact on the body. And like you mentioned, I think it's so much more clear now to most people today about the challenges we have with the healthcare system. You called it sick care, just because of the incentive structure and how we're set up to treat these problems. And there's, more and more information is coming out all the time where people are appreciating more that so much of this can be solved by just what we put in our body instead of waiting until those problems are manifested later with symptoms that then are treated right with medication or whatever that may be.
Right.
And so I know that's true of me. My eyes have been opened over the last many years about the impact that has. So if you, again, there's many benefits, but for people listening, what might be the top 3 things, if you were trying to look at, hey, this is what is unique about our product, or this is what we recognized had a big impact on people and on their health, even if it's just for, like you said, high performance athletes. How would you define that? What are those 2 or 3 things?
Well, I think the biggest thing we realized is that God's provided what you need on this earth already. If you go outside the United States, there's countries that use herbs and use different formulas to treat all kind of illness. And it's been going on for thousands of years. And all of a sudden we've changed it and said, in this country, hey, that doesn't work anymore. Or, it really didn't work. This drug works better. Because if you take this drug, then you can be on another drug and then on another drug and another drug, and you're on a drug for the rest of your life. As opposed to let's go to the root cause and find out what those issues are and work towards that. And it's really educating. And sadly, social media for so long, if it didn't fit what the norm was, it would be taken down. We saw that with what happened a couple of years ago with the pandemic. People were saying things and they were saying what was truthful. Now we know that was 100% true, but it was not true because it went against what the narrative wanted to be. And I think people are starting to wake up to that. And people are starting to wake up and understand that you got to take care of yourself. You want to live longer. You want to live a better day. You got to take care of yourself. And we found one of the biggest issues is inflammation. So, and that's a curcumazyme, bromelain, turmeric, boron, feverfew, quercetin, all the items that back at that little period of time that people said didn't help, we found out now they do help. And we had a big spike in sale during that time because people were doing research. They were doing their own research and finding out, hey, this can work, this cannot work. And realizing to go back to the basics and take things that are natural, take things that are non-GMO, take things that are organic in nature, or as organic as they possibly can, as contaminated as our food system is. But doing those things and kind of picking a couple areas and a couple products that you could highlight to help people out. The one thing that people have to realize, though, with that whole system is it takes time. There's not a magic pill you can take that is instantly going to cure up 20 years or 30 years or 10 years of you not eating properly and filling yourself with toxins. So that understanding is a big part of it. Education, providing products that are good for you and that have benefit, but realizing it's a journey and using a track analogy. It's not a sprint; it's a marathon. It's going to take time, and it's going to take time for you to get a little bit better as a person.
That's absolutely right. And again, that mindset shift of not only being patient and disciplined and just having right-sized expectations, that going this approach, like you said, it's not a magic pill, even though these things are natural and have impact, but you have to do it over a certain amount of time. And, I found in our kind of health journey, we got turned on to the power of peptides and all kinds of other things that we have found have absolutely helped improving gut. And again, everything that you're saying about inflammation. And so again, our eyes have been opened and they're becoming more and more accessible. And so I just love, your passion for this and where you're coming at it. And anyway, I just know this information will be so helpful to our listeners. So tell us more about Iron Faith Nutrition. Let's get into that. What is it specifically that you offer there? And you've kind of touched on it a little bit, but tell us more.
Well, curcumazyme is our biggest selling product that deals with inflammation. We have another one called Essie Herbal Tea, which was an ancient herbal remedy passed down by the Ojibwe Indians up in Canada to a nurse called Renee Case. And then through, years of studies, Dr. Brush, who was JFK's personal physician, kind of inspired the formula that we currently use for Essie Herbal. And it's an 8-herb, detox tea that got 8 different herbs that are all natural. It helps detoxify blood and lymphatic system and kind of gives your immune system a boost. So that's Essie Herbal. And like I said, curcumazyme. But then we offer a wide array of other products that, deal with different symptoms, different issues that you might be having. The sad part of it is probably our best product or one of our best products, a product we came up with called Circadian Balance. We've had to discontinue it. And I think this is the message that business owners and people have to understand is we had to discontinue it because it costs too much. It costs too much to produce because we were using great ingredients. We were using pure ingredients. We were using the top line of egg albium or the top lines of whey protein. We were putting prebiotics in it, not antibiotics, prebiotics and postbiotics in it. And it just got to the point where financially, when you're not making any money on it, you got to realize, is it worth, putting $100,000 in to redo a product that you're going to make, $100,000 in, which is sad. I think people got to realize eating better and eating healthier comes with a little bit of a cost. That's the reality of it. It costs more. Why do you think there's fast food chains in the poorest parts of the country, in the poorest sections of the country? Because it's cheap. It's trash. It's sad that a can of soda is cheaper than a bottle of water. That doesn't make any sense to me because that soda has water in it. But why does it do that? I could go on and on about that, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
No, but this is really helpful. So digging into, I mean, you made a great, business realization. So what I heard you saying, I'm going to try not to challenge you too much on your statement there, but it just sounds like that one product in particular that you had to discontinue. What I'm hearing you say is it didn't line up with where your customers were, right? So the majority of your customers and what their expectations were for what they were going to pay for these products, and you had another one that just wasn't in that sweet spot of value and pricing for your existing market. Is that fair to say?
Not really. We kept the price super low on circadian balance because we wanted to keep it affordable. We took the profit or the revenue loss to pass it on to the customers, but then you get to a point where you're like, is it financially worthwhile for us to continue to do something when we're losing money on it? I guess that's just smart business that you don't want to keep losing money on something, but it's sad because it could really help somebody. So you could redirect your focus to making sure you kept products at a cost favorable line for your customers to make sure they got the benefit of it at a business standpoint where, hey, you're not selling out to the cheapest bidder per se, if that makes sense.
Well, and what I'm getting at, because you made this really good realization, which is sometimes in business, you do have to make some of these tough decisions if you recognize that the market and the consumers, the customers that you have and the market fit of what you're trying to serve, they may not be in the right position to pay what they need to pay for you to make money on this. And so, every business owner, if you run into that challenge, you do have to make a choice, which is, are you going to stay within where those customers are, that sweet spot? Or do you need to rethink your strategy and go after a different type of consumer who does have the resources or does put the appropriate value on what you're selling, that they will pay you what they need to pay in order for it to be a profitable exercise for you? So again, you're touching on something that, again, a lot of our clients and listeners probably deal with, which is, when you're making any kind of those business decisions of a product or service, so many of us, when we come at this from a position of service, right, or a faith element, we're just trying to help people. You said that more than once. We're driven by that. And I know Kurt and I have run into those traps sometimes, which is, oh, I really want to serve this client. I really believe in them. And ultimately, you need to charge enough for the value you are providing in order to run, a profitable business that can sustain itself, that can support your employees, and that you can reinvest to continue to innovate and offer great products and services. And so I love your transparency in sharing that, because so many people run into that. And you are at a crossroads. You do have to make a decision. But I would just challenge you to think about that, because maybe there is a new set of consumers that you could market to with that product and do very well. It just would require you, marketing differently and opening yourself up to a different market. So you didn't say that. That's my unsolicited advice, but
No, I think the marketing piece of it is really the key. Out of anything else. I mean, I know, back, business partners' parents had that company, and they had a syndicated radio show that was across the country that was getting their voice out. And I think for smaller businesses, with the difference, and this is probably a business lesson that was learned more than anything else, is in coaching in sport, if I want to get better athletes, if I want to have success, I can sell that individual, and it doesn't take a lot. It takes a small portion. And I can sell that person, they're on board, I help them achieve, they go on to succeed, we achieve, we win. But in a business, when you don't have a recognizable name, I was at Harvard, not hard, pick up the phone and go, hey, are you interested in Harvard? Very rarely did anybody go, absolutely not. I've never even heard of that school, or Virginia, or Berkeley. I mean, everybody knows those names. Your brand is already established, but as a small company and not having the resources of a syndicated radio show or the marketing dollars or the marketing aspects, you have an uphill climb. You got to realize, I realized that marketing is way more important than I ever thought it would. And we screwed up marketing a ton because we were like, hey, let's go with Amazon. Let's get the masses. And it didn't do anything. We tried all these other little things to try to make this big hit, and it really didn't happen. And we eventually found Public Square, which was a little more aligned with our mission as a company. That, we're a Christian company. We're not going to, if you go on our website, you're going to see Iron Faith Nutrition. It's a Christian company. That's what the name came up from. That's everything aspect to it. And it helped our sales grow because we aligned with like-minded people that were thinking in the same space as we were.
Well, I'll tell you, you're not the first person who has said that exact same thing about Public Square, where they were really struggling with a more traditional, let's call it traditional marketing approach. They were on Amazon or they were on other major platforms, or they're on social media and they were getting canceled, or they just weren't seeing results. And then they were able to get on Public Square and saw something completely different. And of course, you're preaching to the choir with the two of us, about the importance of aligning with potential customers on the level of convictions, right? I mean, there is a care and purposeful, there are careful and purposeful choices you're making to develop the absolute best product for people to take, absolute best supplements. But it's sometimes hard to break through on just quality product alone. And when you can differentiate on not only do you have a great quality product, but you're aligned with somebody on faith, or you're aligned to somebody on their political beliefs, there's a lot of potential there, as you witnessed on Public Square.
Yeah, I mean, that's a crowded industry, as we were touching on. As more and more people become aware, there's more and more options, right? For on to this point. So I'm so thrilled to hear about your success with Public Square. That's great.
No, it's amazing to see the differences when you talk about Iron Faith Nutrition and Optimal Sports, the other company that helped found. I memean, the marketing is very different because you're going, B2C with Iron Faith Nutrition and small businesses. And then with Optimal Sports is completely different. We're working with teams and organizations that are much greater, and it's more of a networking kind of aspect of it because you're dealing with other colleges and pro teams and high schools and so forth. And now we're going into the ministerial side of things and into the executive world to help them out on the mental health, mental optimization space. So it's interesting to learn and see the differences between different types of business, which, you're always learning. I love the fact that I'm always learning with it. You're trying to find your niche.
For other business owners who are listening to this, and maybe something you're saying is really resonating, right? Maybe they, again, are B2C and they're going, direct to consumer, and they're struggling with this. You touched on this a little bit with marketing. And I know we talked about it a little bit even before we started recording, but what would you share to other business owners who maybe aren't as far along in that journey, or they're trying to understand where to pivot? What has your experience led you to believe, or what advice would you give them based on what you have found?
Make sure you're aligned with who your customers really are. I think that's a big part. Find your marketing strategy that you need to have and really sink a lot of time and effort into that, because you can have the greatest product in the world, but if people don't know your product, how are they going to buy it? Where are they going to buy it? Those kind of things. And I mean, you guys book, I wish I would have read your book, 15 years ago. To be honest with you, that's given a cheap plug, but it's so true, because it's understanding your audience, and it's understanding, what you're doing. Spend the money on marketing. Spend the money on. Let me take that back. Spend the money on the best use of marketing, and not just throwing dollars at something you think Facebook or Instagram or something. We wasted so much money trying to advertise on those entities and trying to advertise on Amazon. I mean, we wasted. When I say we wasted, we just completely wasted because we got no ROI back. I mean, it was not worth it at all. So make sure you're marketing and aligning with individuals that that share the same beliefs and are looking for the same things that you have. And if you need help, ask people, ask people for help. I think your ego should never be too big to not ask or not admit when you don't know something. I laugh because in the coaching world, you're brought up your entire life, saying not to plagiarize. Don't plagiarize, don't plagiarize, don't plagiarize.
Mm-hmm.
Don't take somebody else's words or ideas. And then you get into coaching and it's like, you know what? If you don't take somebody else's words and ideas, you're going to fail because they've already done it well. Take that and just use it. So in the marketing is no different.
Mm-hmm.
Take what the best, people do in your space and try to emulate it and ask questions about how they did it. LinkedIn is a great asset. Ask business people questions. Everybody's got egos. When you shoot somebody a question, people have ego enough that they think, hey, stroke their ego a little bit. Ask them how they got theirs done, and go from there.
Yeah.
Well, and even beyond the ego, down to the root core, we're the happiest when we're serving other people, when we're not focused on ourselves. Most people, y'all know some narcissists who maybe that's not true for, but for so much of this, there can be so much joy and fulfillment, right? Like you're doing right now. You have learned something. You've learned it the hard way. You tried something, it hasn't worked. You've pivoted, and being able to share those lessons with other people can be very fulfilling. Same true for us and what we're doing right now and taking what we've learned to help other people. So it's such great advice, and so many times we as entrepreneurs and business owners, it's embarrassing. We can be embarrassed. We can get caught up in, not wanting to admit that we don't have it all together and that it feels like we really should know this by now. We should have this answer by now. I bet everyone else has this figured out and I'm the only one that doesn't. So I love what you shared, Bryan, about just ask for help, ask people questions. It's great advice.
As we get to the end of our episode here, I think the most fun part of it is what I like to call the lightning round. And I like to ask people to answer three questions in, about 60 to 90 seconds each. And I'd like to start just by asking, what is the legacy you'd like to leave behind from maybe it's from coaching or Iron Faith or Optimal Sports, but what's the legacy you'd like to leave behind?
I would say for Iron Faith and for Optimal, it's the education piece, understanding why you're doing something and educating individuals on how they can do it better. And I think from a coaching piece, which is more of a leadership piece than anything else, is I spent so much of my career as a transactional coach. And I wish I would have been more of a transformational coach. And I think from a leadership standpoint, if people can shift away from the transactional leadership and become more of transformational leadership, you're going to impact way more people and you're going to have so much more of an impact on society and leave your legacy to be a lot better, trying to be transformational. And Todd Gonwer, who wrote the book Lead for God's Sake, Todd's a great friend. He helped me out with that more than I could ever imagine. And I wish he would help me out with it, 20 years before that.
Yeah. Well, that's a great transactional versus transformational. I wrote that down. That's solid. I feel like that's the first time I've ever heard somebody say that, but right on point. I also like to give people 90 seconds on any topic. It just can't be your business or coaching. What's something maybe that's fascinating you recently? Maybe a hobby you're obsessed about. What you've got 90 seconds to say anything. What would it be?
Oh, wow. I would say, learning more and reading more is something that you've got to really do a lot more of. But I think even more so than that is spending quality quiet time. If that sounds kind of crazy in our hustle and bustle world, but every day I try to make it the first part of my day. Go outside, I sit in the balcony, I listen to the ocean, very blessed for that. And, get a chance to just spend some time with the Lord and just have a quiet time and get my mind prepared for what's going to happen. And I would suggest that for anybody. The beginning of the day is the best time to do it. Have a nice cup of tea and just sit and read.
Yeah. I know a guy who sells some really good tea that's great for detoxification. So
that's a good one.
Yeah, and it's funny if you you can even you could take even for those people that want to take the faith element out of that, right? Studies show how beneficial that is. That quiet time, and people call it being centered or being mindful, and just connecting and again asking for that blessing throughout the day. And by the way, that's when we can hear so much. Cutting out that noise, we can hear Him, we can feel that direction, and it really helps to start the day out. So that's a great random thing to share.
Yeah, absolutely. And then I definitely want, if somebody wanted to know about Iron Faith and wanted to have the 60-second Cliff Notes version of why they ought to head over to your website and purchase something, give us the quick pitch.
It's natural products that are derived off of biochemistry and God-given nutrients and God-given herbs and concepts. We do share back with, we give 10%. We take it, it's biblical that you're supposed to give back. So we do give back, 10% of our proceeds to different organizations that we found are very worthy of it. And, it's so not necessarily you're just supporting us, you're getting to support others. And I think that's a big piece of the pie. And, we're going to continue to do it and continue to try to grow and be able to help more people. Like I said, trying to do things the right way, taking out some of the junk and giving you things that can actually help your body.
Yeah. Well, I really appreciate you joining us, Bryan.
Thanks for having me. Loved it.
Yeah, definitely head over, folks who are listening, to ironfaithnutrition.com, and you can learn more about what he's up to over there.
Yes. Thank you again, Bryan. It was great to have you on, and I've got to connect with you later on more of these products. I've got ideas for you. But
Awesome.
Those of you who are listening and tuning in, we thank you so much for joining us. If you found value in this episode, don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss another one coming up in the future. And again, we invite you, if you'd like to learn more about how you can also engage this audience, come to our website, libertyspenders.com, and you can also grab a free copy of our book at libertyspenders.com/free. Until next time.